A little something to say about these Sportskeeda year-end awards. And it's not going to be pretty for the other people doing award shows, because all these other polls are fixed. They are all homers. Whoever is leading the polls are leading them in a certain direction. There was no trying to convince me one way or another. This was a straight poll. I know a lot of people from Russo's brand. A lot of people were involved in this poll, a lot of great former wrestlers, and I know they were honest to the T. Nobody tried to sway anybody in any way. So I give credit to Sportskeeda for having the first ever legitimate, let me say that again, legitimate year-end awards. Congratulations to you, Sportskeeda.
Oh man, there is more than one royal family in professional wrestling, and Cody Rhodes is taking that royalty possibly somewhere else that you know about in the wrestling universe. Cody Rhodes confirming today that he is leaving All Elite Wrestling. One of the founding fathers of this promotion is no longer with it, along with his wife, Brandi. We have backstage news about this developing since this morning. This is one of the biggest stories that has ever happened to AEW in the recent months, and just a few weeks out from their upcoming AEW Revolution pay-per-view. As if that wasn't enough. Oh no. Oh, hell yeah.
What?
57 years old.
What?
My neck cricking and cracking.
What?
I'm slamming jabronis up and down, stomping Texas mud holes and walking them dry. Kevin Owens, you French Canadian son of a bitch.
What?
I'm calling you out at WrestleMania. That's right. We could be getting a Stone Cold Steve Austin WrestleMania match. This is so much to cover on one episode. It's Sportskeeda Wrestling, the top story. Share that link, you snake.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
Can I get a watch out, watch out?
What?
Jose, you gotta turn your mic on, bud. Your mic's a little muted.
What?
There. What's up, everybody? I am Kev Kellam. That is Jose G. Jeremy Bennett.
Everybody listening to Jose. What? What? Jose say?
We
What?
got so much to cover, man. This is such a big episode. If you're with us for the first time, don't make it the last time. Go ahead and subscribe to Sportskeeda Wrestling here on YouTube, on Facebook. Turn those notifications on. And, of course, you can get this audio on demand as well on our podcast feed, available on Apple, on Spotify, and many, many more apps. Content from us nearly 7 days a week from some of the biggest names in wrestling. And, of course, the Sportskeeda Wrestling Awards, which has some of the biggest names in wrestling. So we have a lot of news. I'm told I have a horrible Stone Cold Steve Austin impression. I'm okay with that, so it's all right. We'll get into it here. Jeremy Bennett.
Yeah.
I'm doing radio this morning. And I get a flurry of texts saying, huge news. We need to go live. We need to be live. And I did a special podcast stream earlier today. You guys can check it out. It's on our channel. We'll get into it, though, because we have a lot more details about the story even since then. And that is that Cody Rhodes has officially left All Elite Wrestling. He is leaving with his wife, Brandi, who is the chief branding officer. And he was an executive vice president, obviously one of the biggest in-ring stars of the company. He's a two-time AEW TNT television champion. We had Jose back to the stream. And this news confirmed by him and confirmed by AEW president Tony Khan. Of course, Millennial Meltzer himself, Sean Ross Sapp, reporting this news, and had a lot of different details that have kind of developed even since this came out. Mm-hmm. This is huge. This is something that was sort of kind of coming together, but is still surprising. Now, a month ago, it was reported that he was working without a deal. And a lot of people thought this was simply just an elaborate storyline that they were doing to kind of drag out. And then he had this promo a few weeks ago where you definitely got the impression that he wasn't going anywhere. Mind you, a week later, he then drops the TNT championship back to Sammy Guevara, the interim champion. While Cody was out, he had a bout with COVID over the holidays, like a lot of people did. So an interesting scenario here. Huge name, one of the founding fathers of this brand, dare I say the face of the brand at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's gone. And he's gone of his own volition, as they could not negotiate and come to terms on a deal. And they were negotiating for nearly 6 weeks to come to a deal. A lot more details about this kind of coming together, Jeremy. What is the latest on it?
All right, a lot of news here, so we're going to shotgun right through it. First off, the first update from Fightful Select after the news broke, as Kevin had mentioned that they did not come to terms. Sources were that as of last Friday, that Cody sought a big money deal, and several did not think the re-signing was going to happen. By that night, numerous people inside and outside the company had knowledge of the situation and were aware that Cody was leaving. Inquiries started to come in over the weekend regarding Cody, especially once he was not around this week at tapings. Shortly before the announcement, WWE officials were made aware of the situation and also knew that an announcement would be dropped today. Two sides have had discussions, but WWE is well aware of the announcement that Rhodes was going to announce his departure at 10 a.m. Eastern today. About 15 minutes before Cody's announcement, word spread to the AEW talent that he was leaving. Of course, as it's been known and reported probably over the past year or so, Cody and Brandi have not been quite connected to the locker room in recent years. And of course, reports that came out about a year ago that Cody had been distant with other EVPs. Andrew Zarian confirmed himself that Cody's camp has been in contact with WWE officials. No official word, though, as of if there is a non-compete. I'd assume no, because his contract is run out.
We don't know. We don't know that, though.
Yeah.
You know?
And then another update through Fightful Select that came through later this afternoon. Locker room began talking last Wednesday when neither were seen in Atlantic City. That led to the suspicions that Cody was not coming back. A lot of people had thought it was a work until the fact that he and Brandi did not show up last week. Of course, you had the week before, you had a segment with Dan Lambert and Paige Van Zant and Brandi as well. The update to Fightful from this afternoon, they've heard from sources that some have reached out to Cody over the weekend, but the situation was downplayed. He even said word of him leaving was conjecture, and he was simply negotiating. Those that had spoken to him said that he had claimed to love working for AEW and Tony Khan. There are, despite reports to the contrary, Fightful has never gained confirmation about Rose to the Top for a second season. But there is a lot of talk between AEW and TNT about various programs with other talent, including Darby Allin. And then, of course, there's some more backstage talk in regards to that. I think a lot of it was just stemming from Uncle Dave talking that there's a lot of talk of Cody returning to the WWE. Other than that, I don't think there's that much else. Other than that, then just the tributes and the thank yous came pouring in. QT Marshall with a great message saying Cody and Brandi opened up the door to my success, literally changed my family's life forever. They are my family. I am forever grateful for that and wish them nothing but the best in whatever they do next. Nyla Rose already claiming that she gets the middle entrance now on the ramp, but then Jade Cargill claimed it. Sammy Guevara and Ricky Starks both just simply posting photos of the two shaking hands in their respective matches. Of course, Cody Rhodes brought in Ricky Starks into the company from NWA. Of course, and we all know Cody and Sammy had the first match in Dynamite's history. Also reports just or a lot of tributes for just pouring in from everybody. Of course, Amanda Huber, the late, great Brody Lee's widow, said, "Words will never, ever be able to express my gratitude for Cody. His friendship, guidance, and compassion have influenced the past 14 months of my life more than anyone else. I'm lucky to call him my Hufflepuff, ride or die, forever friend. Here's to the future." And finally, let's take a breath. And
so much. It's a lot.
Brandi Rhodes has also released a statement. You've
written a great research paper today.
Yeah, I have a lot of sources a lot of sources. And finally, Brandi Rhodes, a heartfelt thank you to every fan that has supported me in AEW. It was an honor to be the company's first chief brand officer. The thank you list is long, so I'll not try to wander. So then she goes on to thank many people from just everybody in the company, Culture City, everything like that. Just went on to thank you. And so after all the thank yous, she said, we must take time to define our own path. Too quickly, we can find the world defining it for us. And then ended it with a quote from Michael Scott. I'll see you on the flippity flop.
What is the flippity flop?
What
is that? What is one flip flop to the next in wrestling?
Speaking flippity flop, you guys are flippity flopped there.
There we are.
There we
go. So that's all the news on him leaving. So it is confirmed this is not a work. I know a lot of people are trying to still claim this is a work, and it's not.
Oh, there's a great video clip of Sean Ross Sapp yelling, "It is not a work."
It is not. God bless you,
Sean.
And
I'm saving that video
It's just
clip.
interesting how this just all happened suddenly. WWE already knew that the news was dropping at 10 a.m.
They knew the time and everything. Yeah.
They knew the time and everything. So clearly they've been talking to him if they already knew that the news was dropping. But my thing is, you build a company from the ground up. You wave the anti-WWE flag. You put subliminal messaging in your performances such as a sledgehammer on a throne. You know, you do stuff like that. You know, so you almost think it was like, wow, he's not walking back to that bridge.
Because it's all building up to WrestleMania in Dallas, Triple H and Cody.
It's going to be the biggest and most stupendous WrestleMania of all time. You know what? I wouldn't be mad at if Triple H wants to do one last match and have it against Cody. I think that would be awesome.
I tell you what if this was all the plan once it started, once, you know, it was
always the plan.
Yeah. What if it was always the plan and he separates himself from the other EVPs and Tony, you know, of course, Tony took on a bigger role after he let the wrestling guys kind of get it kickstarted, and then Tony took over and has been doing a tremendous job since then. You know, maybe this was all in the plans for Cody to say, "Hey, look what I proved," and now finally, you know, get his vindication in the WWE. You know,
well, I mean, there's going to be backlash from the loyalist to AEW, the fan that just follows WWE online just to, you know, crap on it and then waves the flag of AEW. And there's fans like that. We all know them. They watch our show. What
about this interesting comment from Steven Chambers? Cody could buy either Ring of Honor or Impact Wrestling.
I don't know about that, Steve. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I don't know
about
that.
He would have to have a deep-pocketed friend in order to buy either one.
He already did one of those. He already worked with one of those, Tony Khan, and now the report is let's get into the flippy flop, right?
One guy is not going to buy a company, and there's no, you know, Impact is owned by Anthem, and old No Cred Ed is old Rebby Hardy would call him. They got a lot of money. It doesn't a wrestler is not going to be able to buy a company in outright. You know, they're going to need an investment group and a corporation behind them, and yeah, much like, you know, The Rock's going to buy WWE. Well, no, he's going to need
like what he did with the XFL. He got with a group of investors and he bought the XFL. Yeah. You know, so I think it's great.
So we also have this tweet as well from WrestleVotes. WrestleVotes is a scooping Twitter account, which is done a very scoop ski. As they've gotten a lot of good scoops. Very reliable source. Spoke to a source just now that fully anticipates WWE coming to an agreement with Cody Rhodes. Unbelievable. Andrew Zarian also quoting that they are indeed in discussions for having a deal. How long have they been in a discussion? They've at least been in a discussion for more than a week. There's no way that if they knew about this announcement today, they've been talking to Cody for a while.
They've been talking since he's not been under contract is how long they've been talking. So they've probably been talking since at least December.
I said it. The first quarter of 2022 is going to be unbelievable for the world of professional wrestling. It keeps getting even more unbelievable with our next story.
What?
Before we end here, though, we will come back to it. We're going to cover this next door. What? I do want to hear from the AEW fans. How do you feel about this? Do you feel like, oh, whatever, it's wrestling. We know people are going to go back and forth. Or are you like, I'm upset about this. This is awful. Like, this guy, he isn't what he said he was. Or let me know how you really feel about it. Continue to let us know about it. Let's jump into story
weird,
number.
though. Some of those. Let me
just read this comment here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead. I'll get into it.
We got Michael Campos here. He says, I find it hilarious. People are claiming he's going back to mid card. You're truly kidding yourself if you think that's generally the circumstance. He's returning as a main event attraction. Might as well come to grips with that. Haters will hate.
Yeah, I don't think Cody's going to come back without fanfare in WWE. They're not just going to introduce him like a John Morrison and have him backstage or something like that. No. Under the circumstances, they want people who watched AEW to understand, like, better keep an eye on our show.
Here's
Here we
the
go.
weird thing. Those AEW people, though, were hating on Cody and Brandi. So I don't think they're a negative. I think they're almost, a lot of those people were disliking them. A lot of it is not founded. It's kind of ridiculous, the hate that those two are getting. But I think a lot of those diehards are probably like, bye.
More an important question here. People want to know what we think about it. We're just analyzing it. They want to know what we think about it. Mr. James Espanto Fernando Tagay. It's been with me for years. Thank you so much, James. Big Kev, Jose G, good old JB. Would you be excited for a Cody return in WWE? 100%. I'm not saying I'm completely sold on it. It's a fresh face in WWE, a big name who's been on television for wrestling for your competitor. I'm on board. Do something interesting, though. You got to make it work.
I think the big thing here is something that SP3 said earlier during your breaking news video is that if he comes back, when he comes back, he is not going to come back as Stardust. So that's the one thing that I am looking forward not to see is him as Stardust, him as Cody Rhodes, dashing Cody Rhodes as he once wanted to be back in the early days. Maybe we'll see that in WWE, but it's interesting. It's very eyebrow raising for me because it's like, wow, you said and done these things publicly, and now look what's happening. You're coming back to the company that you spent 10 years at.
Yeah, it's interesting to see because, when he was in that program with Damian Sandow, it looked like the sky was the limit for both guys. And then it just fell flat for both guys. It was just crazy. So obviously Cody wants to go back to prove that he can be that top guy in the top company in the world. I think that's a lot of it. And of course, once there was dissension or separation from the other EVPs, I think that started getting into his head. Hey, I can still do this run. I can still maybe even main event a WrestleMania somewhere down the line, and maybe accomplish things that his father really didn't get to do in the WWE himself.
It'll certainly be interesting. Let's get into this story. This is the other big one, which would have been our number one story today if we didn't have to deal with everything else today.
Yeah.
And
let's just do the sound effect.
Stone Cold Steve Austin is reportedly being offered a return match to WWE, a match. All right. He has not wrestled in 19 years. Last time he wrestled was at WrestleMania 19. Wow. It's a long, long time. And he has been physical in the ring. He had, an enforcer role for several years. He was special guest referee in a handful of different things. He's come back to WWE over the past few years and done more stuff. And then obviously he's doing his Broken Skull sessions with them as well. So he's still very active in the wrestling business. He's not a wrestler anymore. He hasn't been for a long time. Made movies, did a podcast thing, a lot of different projects. Television shows with NBC Universal, a lot of stuff, but not in-ring wrestling. Come out and do a stunner. Celebrate with people, cut the promos,
drink beer.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Throw me another one.
Now, let's add into the factor that you have 2 nights of WrestleMania in Jerry's World, Dallas Cowboy Stadium, AT&T, a huge platform in Texas, where Stone Cold Steve Austin is held in rarefied air. Like, he is up there with a Michael Irving or something like that in terms of like Texas sports gods, world-class championship wrestling, the Von Erichs, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Cowboys. Like that's a pretty elite group of Texas icons, and Stone Cold is on that list. And he has been a part of like doing fun things at WrestleMania. When he was inducted in the Hall of Fame, it was in Texas. So this offer comes up, and it's interesting that this news came out during Monday Night Raw. This news came out during Monday Night Raw. Once again, old Fightful Select. Go ahead and subscribe. $5 a month. Well worth your money. There we go. Give you the free plug, and it's not a free plug. It's a deserving plug. Great resource. So it's nuts, man. It's really, really crazy to think that a 57-year-old Stone Cold Steve Austin is going to get in there because there's a storyline playing into this. Why was Kevin Owens on television last night in Indianapolis cutting a promo about how he is happy that he didn't qualify for the Elimination Chamber because that means he doesn't have to go to Dallas, Texas with those stupid rednecks. And then he's if North America is a body, Montreal, Quebec, where he's from, is the head, and Texas is the ass. And I thought that was a fun line that was written for him, and he delivered it very, very well. And it was very interesting that he was doing this in Indianapolis. This show wasn't in like somewhere that wasn't Dallas. It wasn't like they were doing this in San Antonio.
He was saying he loved Dallas last week.
Yeah.
So he's a liar.
Yeah.
What changed?
He admitted that he lied on purpose.
Yeah.
He lied
what
on
changed
purpose
from
since he
one
didn't
week
want to
to
get
the
what he wanted to get.
It's Kevin Owens. That's
what
what
changed from one week to the
it's
next?
Kevin Owens. He lies. Come on.
So the storyline.
This could possibly be the greatest match of all time, in my opinion. You know that match that Edge and Randy Orton had as the greatest match of all time held in the pandemic?
That wasn't even the greatest match of the year.
I know. This should be the great. I mean, just on hype alone, this match is going to be amazing. This is something you play on 2K22.
Yeah. So Fightful Select dropped it last night during Raw. That WWE has made significant overtures towards Steve Austin for an in-ring return at WrestleMania 38. It has been 19 years since he's been in the ring. 1 year after I graduated college is the last time he wrestled. Fightful has reached out to WWE in an official capacity, but hasn't given any concrete information. But if you watched Monday Night Raw last night, the picture seems to be pretty clear. And then it has been revealed that thanks to our friends at Wrestling Inc. that did the story, that High Spots, the wrestling company High Spots, visited Stone Cold Steve Austin's ranch and constructed a brand new wrestling ring.
In August of 2021.
Yeah, so it's almost like it was a plan all along to return to the ring in Dallas, Texas in April.
Now, the problem with this is Stone Cold for a long time, and even last year, you know, he was out there with Chris Jericho having this conversation saying it's not something he feels he needs to do even just for one match. It's not something he feels, you know, he should, you know, like he's not compelled to it, you know. He even referenced Edge. A lot of people saying, look at Edge. Edge came back and he was never supposed to come back. Edge was never, ever supposed to come back. He was out of the ring for 10, 11 years. And the quote from Stone Cold was, be careful out there, man. You got to be very, very careful with what you're doing. This is a very dangerous thing that you're doing. And
well, the good thing also here
Austin understands the consequence of that more than once.
Absolutely.
And so it's a very, very serious thing. Now, the issue is you get out there, you're having a match with Kevin Owens, one of the best wrestlers in the world. Number one, it doesn't have to be the best match you've ever seen. It has to be the entrance. It has to be brawling. It has to be stomping a mud hole and walking it dry. It has to be fire up comeback spot, stunner for stunner, near falls, one big stunner to end it. Clash the beers, and let's go fucking home. Like that's what it needs to be. This, how they build to it is going to be interesting. Do they want to cash out with confirming that this match is happening and really make a TV rating out of it? I think they should. But I'm okay with them going the route they did with Undertaker versus John Cena, where it turned into kind of like they really built that match up and it turned into kind of like a glorified squash match. In this case, I think people would expect that. If Stone Cold's coming back, I think the expectation is you're not going to get a full-fledged match. You're going to get Owens getting squashed very quickly, and it's, you know, a glorified squash match, which I'm completely fine with because it's the ambiance of Stone Cold Steve Austin getting to do it one more time, a victory lap for him. And guess what? Kevin Owens is not buried.
And I
He's
can
not
see
buried
it.
in the circumstance.
No, I mean, he's wrestling Stone Cold at WrestleMania.
Exactly.
Even if it's a squash match, you're still wrestling Stone Cold Steve Austin. 20 years later.
I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a 5 to 8 minute match. I think
Yeah.
Kevin's going to work him for a majority of the beginning, and then Stone Cold's going to give a comeback. I think overall it's probably going to be a 5 to 8 minute match. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be
press.
I don't think it's going to be
a drop elbow. All like
stop in the corner. Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be where the entrances are longer than the match. I think they're going to have a serious match, but it's not going to go more than 10.
And it doesn't need to.
No, it'll probably go 5 to 8, and then it's going to be kind of like almost or Ricky. Almost every Goldberg match that's in high gear, they go 0 to 60 in 5 minutes, and stay at that level right off the bat, and just go nonstop for 5 minutes, where it feels like a 10-minute match.
What about the classic booking of a 1999 Stone Cold Steve Austin versus
it's Raw versus
Goldberg?
Nitro, brher. Raw versus Nitro.
This is a matchup well over 20 years in the making that we never got, especially when WCW purchased WWE back then. That was like the fans' number one thing. We're going to get Stone Cold versus Goldberg.
We never
got it.
Match. They put that fantasy match on the cover of magazines. I remember it was on the cover of magazines. They put a fantasy match. That's how dated this thing is. But
I am not interested in that at all.
No, I'm not either. It'd be a fun thing in a video game, though.
Not in 2022. No.
So the card for Mania is really coming together here. It looks like we're going to get Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, possibly title for title. We'll see what happens after Elimination Chamber this weekend. We're going to get Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair. That is confirmed. Becky Lynch will be in some type of critical role. We don't know what that is. That kind of is affected by this weekend as well. There's some talk that Goldberg could be hanging around for WrestleMania weekend and have a significant role. We have a lot of other players that have still not been slotted yet. A rumored Edge versus AJ Styles match, which I'm like, give it to me. give me that match. Give me that match. So there's a lot of things on here that are kind of coming together. It's just odd, because I think with all of us that have grown up with wrestling, or maybe you're the casual fan and this is the time of year when you watch wrestling, you kind of know what the main event for WrestleMania is coming out of the Royal Rumble. But for the last 10 years, that is not the case. And I think part of that is people have to rectify this with themselves. Why am I not finding out the Stone Cold is coming back now? Because you have the past in your mind of, I have a 5-month build to WrestleMania, or 4-month build from January to April or whatever, right? And then the problem is they have 6 hours of front-running TV every week. So you kind of have to make that development a little bit more dragged out. It's a little bit more dragged out, even though it's the same amount of time. So it's just a different circumstance. I think we kind of always have to put that in our heads and like rectify everything. Sometimes it makes, the WrestleMania build is really hot 2 weeks out. And that week before a show is kind of like, oh shit. Like, why isn't burning hot? Stone Cold versus Kevin Owens is an attraction. It could be a hell of a match. I would absolutely love to see it. It would be very, very special. I know some people are, Jeff Samuel saying, hands up in the air, Seth versus Owens Mania. I thought that would happen. Wow, plot twist here, Jeremy. Yes, it would be a major plot twist here. I think Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens are going to have some significant roles for WrestleMania. I don't think they're going to.
I think we're getting a triple threat rematch at California. I think Rollins is going to be in that match with Reigns and Lesnar.
That'd be cool. I'd be fine with that. That'd be really fun. I'd be really into that idea, and that would make it different than just another Reigns Lesnar match. Though this one's a little bit more. They've built to this Reigns Lesnar one since October.
If Seth doesn't win the Chamber, then they have a claim. They have a claim with Rollins after what happened at the Rumble.
Absolutely.
I expect shenanigans in some way on Saturday.
Oh, there's definitely going to be some shenanigans on Saturday.
There could be shenanigans. There could be shenanigans to where Rollins comes out as the champion. Possibly, I don't know, but probably not.
Is this possible that we can get 2 Saudi Arabia shows back to back that are good? Because it's been one good show, one bad show, one good show, one bad show. We just had a good show with Crown Jewel. Yeah, is this going to be a bad show? Even they got us to bend this card. They got us to bend this card right now.
Yeah, they do. On paper, it's a pretty strong card here. Let's jump into this other story here, gentlemen. Let's jump into this final closing story here. Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega's been on the shelf here for months now. He's been out of the picture since Hangman Page took the title off him. A long build to that. and Omega's contract status. We kind of have a little bit more clarity on this contract status. What do we know, guys?
Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio has reported that Kenny Omega has 1 year left on his AEW contract. It is set to expire on February 23rd of 2023.
So what do you think here? We just had the news of Cody. We have a pretty banged up Kenny Omega on the shelf. Mind you, he was working through a lot of injuries while he was the champion, and having these matches in Impact Wrestling on top of, being the leading guy in AEW and having to carry the weight there. They would separate the matches quite a bit. At one point, he was also the champion of AAA too. And he had to vacate that title without even losing it. So you have a lot of different things here. You have a guy who wrestled that incredibly daunting New Japan style for a long, long time. Some people saying maybe that caught up with him before he even got to AEW. Mm-hmm. What do you think here? The timing isn't great to hear this, considering today's news. If we didn't get the Cody news, this would still be a major thing, point of interest. But you're gonna have a guy who's gonna be coming out of late 30s with a lot of mileage on his body, a lot of mileage on him.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, right? Because you said it yourself. His time in Japan really kind of accelerated what his body should be going through. 20 or 30 years from now. From being in the business. So one thing is that's interesting here, that we know that he can go, but will he change his style up if he comes back, or when he comes back? And will he stay with AEW? I'm pretty inclined to say that he will, but never say never, right? Because we never thought that Cody was going to come over to WWE or have talks in WWE, and that looks like it's quite possible. But again, money talks, right? So we'll see what happens here in a year. But very interesting, especially with all his physical conditioning right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he wants to have a WWE run. If he does, then he could go. But he has got a tighter bond with the Bucks than Cody has had. So, and he is an EVP as well. So I fully expect him to not go to WWE. I think he's going to stay with AEW. But we didn't think Cody would ever come back to WWE. But the writing's been on the wall for a year, so we knew that there was a possibility that he would leave. We just didn't think he would actually pull that trigger. But you still see you notice that Cody had disappeared from being the elite, things like that. Kenny Omega is still on being the elite. You still see him on that when he was active. So there still is that tight bond with those guys. So I don't expect him to leave when that deal comes up next year.
I don't either, but I wonder how is he going to be a main event guy again? Is he going to sign a new deal? How different is that deal going to be? Like what? I'm not saying I don't think WWE is the first thing I think of it as future. I think it's just how does your role change in All Elite Wrestling? Yeah. Or do you want to get away from it for a while and do something else? This is a guy who has an active career that if he wanted to get into gaming development or something like that, he's been involved in that. The video game, which will come out for All Elite Wrestling this year, I think will be a big project you'll see him associated with. He's been involved with it. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And they got a lot riding on that.
Yeah, but
All Elite Wrestling put millions of dollars into that game. Millions.
Just look at Jericho. I mean, he could go the route of Jericho and just change his style up completely. Many wrestlers throughout the years have done that.
Stone Cold did it. Stone Cold did it.
Stone Cold had to do it. So
he had to do it.
And like you just mentioned with AEW games, he is completely ingrained in that. I just don't see a situation where he's leaving AEW.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think he's kind of like he bleeds that black and gold, that from AEW. So I think he's really well ingrained, and especially with the gaming department, I could probably, if he ends up retiring in ring, he might be like the head of that gaming side.
It would be wild if he had like a short run in WWE. If he did
it would be wild. It'd be awesome. Everybody speculated about that.
I'm not saying it's going to happen. This is completely hypothetical. But like if he came and did like the Jushin Thunder Liger thing, it's like, hey, I'm between deals. This is what Jushin Thunder Liger did. His deal with New Japan ended. He told New Japan he was going to come back. He's like, I want to do one match with WWE. And he went to WWE and they said, yeah, he's friends with Willie Regal. They said, yeah, we'll do one match, just one cool match. Obviously, NXT is where you would do that. I mean, if he came back and you wanted to do a handful of things, and you could do him in Styles, you could do him in a handful of other people. There's a lot of big people he could have big matches with. I mean, if Kenny is a bout machine. He is the big match performer. Can you create a big match for him in WWE? You certainly can. Now, do you trust WWE to make that match work or be what it could be? Who knows? It'd be wild. People have always said they want a Roman Reigns versus Kenny Omega match. I've said that for a few years. There's matches fans want with Kenny Omega and WWE. I think it's worth noting, but I just don't see it on the cards. He just seems like the antithesis of the type of WWE performer that they usually want to aspire to get at this point. So
let's get to this question here from James Espanto Fernando here real quick. He says,
roll that R. Roll that. Wait, come on. Wait, we're not rolling that R. Fernando.
James Espanto Fernando Taguay.
See, I can't roll my R's, so that's up to you guys.
Good old JB, Jose, and Big Kev. Speaking of WrestleMania being in Texas, who is the greatest wrestler or tag team to ever come from Texas? There's certainly quite a few wrestlers, but Stone Cold, Steve Austin, oh hell yeah, he's definitely my top number one of all time to come out of Texas.
Yeah. I took my framed Stone Cold picture off the wall to do this.
Now, if we're talking,
I have a framed picture of Stone Cold on the wall, not a picture of my family.
Yeah.
Jose. I got a little.
You tell them exactly what it is. That Stone Cold is the most dynamic guy to come out.
We
of
are
that
Marks.
big ass.
Hold up all your Stone Cold stuff, guys. Everyone, hold up their Stone Cold stuff on the camera.
We're being idiots.
If we go tag teams, got to go Von Erichs.
Von Erichs, World Class Championship Wrestling, and obviously the Undertaker. Bruiser Brody, had plenty of great time in Texas as well. So a lot
JBL, of any from Texas.
Hell yeah, I think he'd be angry if he wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys from Texas that are just amazing. So
yeah. There's probably some people we're forgetting. We're gonna get murdered in the comments for it. So thank you guys. I want to say this is a wild episode here. People also bring up Rolling Chris, bring up Steve Austin, Harlem Heat. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Harlem Heat, definitely. Houston, definitely for sure. Put him on the map.
Say, bro, hell yeah.
So thank you guys so much. We're on the road to WrestleMania. It is officially WrestleMania season. We have Elimination Chamber this Saturday. We will have a post show for that. That'll be late in the afternoon. That show, it's not clear when it would end.
Should be around 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central.
In that
show starts at 11 Central. So
yeah, starts at 12 p.m. noon. Yeah,
it's about weird to have it's wrestling on a Saturday afternoon is odd, right? It's gonna be
we got Impact's pay-per-view later that night.
Yeah, so
I kind of like it. I kind of like having this show in the middle of the day of the Saturday. That frees up my night. So it's great.
I'm booked doing comedy. So right when we're done, I'm like on the road right away to do a show.
Yeah, I'm supposed to go to a beer fest Saturday, so I'll probably get off of this post show and then go to the beer fest, then probably come back and watch Impact.
Please, more Saturday afternoon pay-per-views, please. Let's keep doing that.
Guys, a quick reminder for everyone: make sure you go on now. The polls are still wide open. We have more than 12,000 votes on sportskeedawrestling.com/wrestling-awards. We have tons of panelists, guys, that chime in. We have all the interviews right now available on our Sportskeeda Wrestling YouTube page. We got the judges and panels such as DDP, Adam Shear, formerly known as Braun Strowman. We have legends like Eric Bischoff. So, guys, these guys are all sounding off on the Sportskeeda Wrestling Awards. Most recently, we got Renee Paquette. All right, Renee Paquette from the Sessions. So make sure you guys check that out. Chime in. Get your votes in. I did mine. It takes less than 60 seconds to get your votes in. All right. Again, and that is at Sportskeeda.
And you can win prizes.
And you can win prizes. I think they're giving away an Xbox, one of the new ones, like the really badass one, the X series. So
yeah,
make sure you get there. You get registered. Sportskeeda.com/wrestling-awards. Get your votes in now. All right, guys, let's go.
Wow, let's get out of here. Thank you. It's been a busy episode. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed it, share the link or your stink. Tag your wrestling buddies in the comments below. If you're watching on demand, we want to know your take on the big news stories today. What do you think of Stone Cold possibly coming back? What do you think of Cody leaving AEW for possibly WWE? Let us know what you think. Share the link or you stink. Follow me at Kev Kellam on the Twitter machine. Follow at Jose_G_official on the Instagram. On the Twitter. Jeremy Bennett, old GB.
On the TikTok, bro.
You're on the TikTok? Do me more of those TikTok dances while we get out of here. We will all TikTok dance with our Stone Cold items. while we sign off today and let you know that if you enjoy wrestling, please remember the most important thing when watching wrestling is that word I just said. Enjoy wrestling. Oh, hell yeah. Talk to him. Talk to him. Talk to him.
And that's not an insult. That's a fact of life. Yeah.
Jackass.
What?